The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good morning. My name is Colin McNaughton. I'm a technical marketing manager for Red Hat, working with Ansible Automation. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today to discuss Ansible certified content collections and Automation Hub. Now, this is part of a larger platform rollout, a brand new offering from Red Hat that encompasses many different SaaS offerings and additional product functionality that was debuted and introduced at Ansible Fest. So first up is Automation Hub, and we'll start talking about why exactly this is important, sort of the history of automation content, manageability, discoverability, and usage of automation content. So let's talk about the past first, and sort of the challenge that our users have found as they're adopting an automation strategy. Now, Galaxy is already there; it's already out there, right? And it houses a couple of different sort of automation content types, mainly being roles. Now, this got pretty complicated as additional roles were uploaded into Galaxy. I think that at this moment there's multiple thousands of roles that are able to be downloaded at any point from Galaxy. Moreover, there's also anybody is able to upload to Galaxy, right? So it turns into a bit of a manageability nightmare at some point. It has scaled well for us to this point, and Galaxy will continue to be the upstream for content hosting. But it's also not private. It's not the best place for an organization to go and get started with automation. There's no certified content. There's no guarantee that this automation content, these roles that have been uploaded, are trustworthy, are reliable, are stable enough to push into an automated enterprise. It's also, it's unclear where the lines of support are, and additionally, how you draw a line as you're trying to support an issue within an automated environment, where we need to place the blame and where we need to troubleshoot. So, one of the main challenges for us and our customers using Galaxy was that it was just too difficult to use, and it didn't serve as a solid starting point to actually kick off automation in an environment. There we go. So what does Automation Hub give to us now today? It serves as a place to be able to find trusted content. It is available only to Red Hat subscribers, and it is available as a software as a service, which allows us to browse different content collections that have been produced by Red Hat itself or by certified partners through our certified partner program. It also allows us to browse documentation and everything that has been uploaded by these certified partners. Everything that we need to run a specific content collection that we'll go over in a moment here has been documented within that specific package. We can also sort through different versions of each content collection, and each content collection version could introduce additional features to a specific module. It could be adding, different variables exposed into a role or a playbook, or documentation fixes, right? But Content Hub, Automation Hub allows us to browse any one of those, any one of the versions of our content collections that have been presented here. Now, each collection in Hub comes with content that allows us to use to be able to run the module against our infrastructure, the roles that will call that module, and all the documentation, all packaged up in a nice nice format. Most importantly, this gives us the knowledge. We know that this content is coming from a trusted source. Again, this is only available to Ansible Automation Platform subscribers. It's just another part of the subscription, and it's nothing that you have to actually go in and add today. If you have an Ansible Automation Platform subscription, you can go to cloud.redhat.com and start moving through the interface yourself. And one thing to note that this is really just sort of the first attempt, right? This is the initial offering, and all of this stuff is continually changing. So one thing you'll notice that we have about 19 partners at launch providing certified content collections, and that number is only going to grow as we have additional partners in the hopper to push out certified content collections. So Automation Hub not only helps users have a clear overview of supported content, but it gives us a starting point for the tasks that we're looking to automate. So what we want to have is a platform where we have to get a job done, we have a task at hand, and we're going to think of automation first. This is the first place that we're going to check. Has it been done before? What partners within our environment have already created certified and supported content, and how can I get started the quickest? Provides the platform to show all the documentation around all of these different modules and collections, and it's really our getting started point. It reduces the barrier to entry for automation for these organizations, and this is kind of where we're going to be discovering all this content. As stated before, Automation Hub is a software as a service, only available to Red Hat, Ansible Automation Platform customers, and hosted at cloud.redhat.com. You are able to consume content as part of a workflow. You're able to consume content collections from Automation Hub, downloading directly through the browser or just through CLI. And we'll kind of walk through that in a moment here as well, and walk through pulling down a token to be able to do that through the command line interface. And as stated before, we talked a little bit about versioning of content collections within Automation Hub, which allows us to easily pull down a specific version of a content collection, or pull down the latest and greatest every time. And that kind of brings us to what exactly is a certified content collection. So Ansible certified content collections are, they were introduced as tech preview in Ansible 2.8, and now fully supported at Ansible 2.9. And at its base, it's a packaging change. You can also shorten Ansible certified content collections just to collections. That's probably what I'll do for the rest of the webinar here. So for key sort of areas where Ansible collections comes into play, for one, it provides a lower barrier to automation. So if we take a look back at the history of how we distributed Ansible content, we really were only talking about one content type. If you include modules that were distributed through roles on Galaxy, but we were really just talking about roles, and that was the primary way we actually started to share out our content. All of this stuff was versioned into GitHub, and then at one point we'd say, okay, this role is ready to go, and I want to start sharing it throughout my environment. And the only way we'd do that was packaging up a role and either sharing it internally, uploading to Galaxy, but that was just one content type. So Ansible Content Collections now provides support for packaging up additional content types. So along with roles, we also have modules. We also have plugins. We have all the documentation pertinent to using and modifying all the other content types, right? And it's all packaged up along with the modules and roles themselves. Now, this lowers the barrier to entry for our partners as well, because traditionally modules were distributed with Ansible itself. So if a partner had a new maybe cloud service that they were offering as a part of their platform, and they would also like to roll out the automation at the same time to be able to automate that service. Well, we had to wait for that module to be picked up into the Ansible distribution. And this took a long time. Ansible has tremendous community and tremendous momentum behind it, and the reviews for necessary to pull in a new module into the core distribution of Ansible could be months or even years, right, depending on where the demand is for this module. But by separating out modules from the base executable and base deliverable of Ansible itself, we're able to develop these modules at a different pace and push them out at the pace that our customers would like to consume them. So now by pulling that apart, make it much easier to create new modules, to modify modules, to fix modules that maybe have broken as we've introduced new services for our cloud environment in that example. It also simplifies internal collaboration. Now we can ship out everything that we need to automate this one piece of infrastructure in a small package. And these packages are just tar archives, and we'll talk about sort of the directory structure in a moment as well. But it's really easy to look at the module and discern exactly what version it is. We have all the documentation that is specific to that version, and anytime we make a modification to that collection, we're incrementing the revision number on that collection. So it's very easy to see exactly when it was updated, and then by version control, we see who updated it and what they updated, right? And this really up-levels our ability to distribute and share all of this content. And content collections, they're also sort of user created, right? So not only are you pulling down collections from Automation Hub, you're also creating your own content collections. And even without having a place to distribute them, like from Automation Hub, which today is not possible, you're still able to distribute these content collections internally in a very easy, straightforward approach. So here we're just kind of looking at what an Ansible content collection looks like. On the left, we have a directory layout. Top level, you can see galaxy.yaml. This is more of like a metadata file that describes what our collection is, who the author is, what revision it's at, and different pieces of data about this collection. And then we have multiple directories underneath. We have plugins, which will include modules as well, so you can see ping.py in there. We have another roles directory where we have two different roles: ping bootstrap and ping deploy. And on the right, this is how we're actually invoking these modules. And you can see a couple of different conditionals in a couple of different ways to pull different collections in. And a little bit more on that directory structure. So not included in the previous screenshot was documentation, and this is the local documentation for that collection. It's what we're also going to expose through Automation Hub, so we know exactly what this collection is doing and how to interact with it. Galaxy.yaml is that sort of the manifest file, sort of the metadata file. I think the only thing that we really didn't hit under plugins, we also, we have our connection plugins as well. So if not using SSH by default, and if WinRM wasn't in there, we would have, a connection plugin for WinRM. And just depending on what inventory you're contacting, this is where your connection plugin goes if you're not using SSH. All right, so at this point, we can switch over. Just excuse me here. Okay. So now I'm on my terminal. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and hope it doesn't cut anything off. Okay, so here I have a couple of collections. One is actually one that I've created, or another TMM actually has created, called Hello Collection. And if I browse into that collection, we'll be able to see that directory structure. So this one is fairly simple. We have our galaxy.yaml file, so let's take a look. And here really is pretty bare bones at the moment. We have a namespace that we've created that's necessary for all of our collections. We have a name, hello collection, version. This is actually automatically incremented as we build our collection, and the tar file name is updated. We have our README, we have our authors, and we have a short description of our collection. So pretty simple. And then we have a couple of roles in here. Each time we're actually doing a build of this collection, you can see the char files up here that have been created. Now, if you don't have, if you haven't created a collection yet, it's actually a very easy way to go in and create a new directory structure. So we can do that using the Ansible Galaxy command line utility, and we'll show that in just a moment. We also have another collection here. If I go back, I have, excuse me. If I go back, I have a NetApp collection, and this is a little bit more populated. So we are taking advantage of a few different, a couple of different directories that we weren't in the previous, and that mainly is tests. But then we also have multiple modules that we're pulling in instead of just a fake module that we created. We have additional documentation, but this is really just to say it's very easy to kind of go in through this directory structure and start to understand exactly what this collection is doing, exactly how to modify it, and so on, and exactly what version we're working on. So let's go ahead really quickly and take a look at how these collections are actually exposed within Automation Hub. So again, this is just cloud.redhat.com. With your automation platform subscription, Ansible Automation Platform subscription, you'll have access to a card over here, which is Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform. Today we're talking about Automation Hub, so I'll come in here, click on Automation Hub, and this will take us to a dashboard of all the collections that we have available. Now, again, these are all partner and Red Hat certified content collections. And today, partners are the only ones that have access to upload collections into Automation Hub. So this is not yet the repository for internal collections to be distributed from, but eventually we will see that. But here you can quickly start to filter through different collections. We have about 20 here today. I can filter through tags, I can search, and I can move through multiple pages, right? Pretty straightforward. But when it actually comes down to viewing a collection, let's just pick one, Dynatrace collection. Now this is where we start to play into the different directory structures of a collection. So we have details. We have our license that was pulled from our metadata file. We have an installation command on how we actually pull these collections down, like I did with the NetApp collection just a moment ago. And then we have all the documentation pertinent to it. So I can go in and see exactly what modules are included here, how we will interact with them, how we will use them within a playbook. And you can see all of this documentation really looks very similar to docs.ansible.com. But this is how we can browse our collection here and find documentation for it, and then I can go in and filter different content types here. I can also go up and switch different versions, and it appears that this is the only version available for this specific collection. But I have a drop down here so that I can browse multiple versions at one time. Now I'm able to download this pretty straightforward, from the web UI, but I can also do that programmatically over CLI using this installation command. Now, one thing that you do have to do first is obtain a token. So I would come over here and obtain an API token. This is going to be a little bit more up front and center at this moment. It's sort of buried within each content collection. But it is something that needs to happen before you're able to use this Ansible Galaxy collection install command. But from this point forward, what we're showing here today is a certified collection that will get us started with automating this specific service. we have all the pertinent documentation. We have the ability to consume it right away at any version number. So let's go back over here and just take a look really quick. And so I would do, if I was just getting started with my first collection, I would do something like Ansible Galaxy init, and I could do a namespace and test collection. So if I'm not, oh, excuse me, forgot to switch here. All right, so now I've created, successfully just created a role very simply. So now along with our Hello collection and NetApp, I also have a new namespace called Ansible and a new collection called Tests. And I have our directory structure laid out in front of us. So if we're getting started with creating a collection from scratch, very easy just to create our new namespace and our new collection. I can go into Galaxy YAML at this point, and I have our bare bones metadata for this collection. I could go in, change my author name, my email address, all that stuff, and I can start plugging away at creating this collection. Now, in additional webinars to follow and blog posts to follow, we're going to go in a bit deeper on migrating from existing roles into collections, developing collections a little bit further. But that's just the sort of the base understanding of what a collection is, where to find it, why a collection is valuable, and why it matters to have certified automation content pushed out through Automation Hub. And at this point, we can exit here and go over to a Q&A if there are any questions.
So there was one question so far, and I'll give people a chance to kind of get their questions in if they have any. But someone had asked if this was going to be available as a replay for anyone who wasn't able to join. Yes, this is being recorded, and it will be up on Ansible.com tomorrow. And you will also be receiving a follow-up email that will include the link of where to go to access this on-demand webinar. There's another one, and Jason had asked, is this somehow integrated with Ansible Tower?
Do you want me to take that, Colin?
Yeah, sorry, thanks. Thank you, please.
Hi to everyone on the call. So Richard Henschel, I'm product manager for the Ansible Automation Platform. So at the moment, the approach we've taken to this, while we're still truly understanding and making sure collections work as we expect them to, and making sure that the customer experience is right, is to really only use Tower integration sort of like an offline mode. So you can, when you create the project and do initial sort of updates and syncs, it will bring the collection down if you specify it to do so. But my personal recommendation is that you actually offline download and manage the collections as you would any other package that you would obtain from the internet, whether from a trusted source or not. Bring it down, make sure you know where it is, make sure it's available to your execution environment, to your project to be usable. This is documented in the documentation for Tower, how to do both of these options. We are looking for the next versions of Tower how to better integrate collections into the environment build, into the virtual M's, and how to make that easier, because as you get, as we get more and more collections available, the building of execution environments as that we're starting to change in the future architecture of the platform will also become more important, and how that will integrate into what we can offer as future sort of private Automation Hub instances for customers to run, to manage their own approved internal content and downloaded content will also become more important. So it's it has a very basic integration in the same way that you can download roles today works for Tower, and in the future we hope to make that a far more seamless experience.
There is another question. What is the requirement to move a Galaxy collection to Hub?
So this is, so at the moment, the Galaxies are upstream. So from a, for partners that are contributing, so this is a business relationship between the partner vendor and Red Hat for customers of Ansible. Is you want joint support. You don't want to come to Red Hat and us say, no, this was written by a partner. That partner, you have to go and speak to them independently. We want to make sure that we can triage those issues in the background. So for the partners that upload, there's a bunch of guidelines we give them that they work to. They upload that content to Galaxy. They work in their development model there, so they can upload multiple copies of a collection to Galaxy. When they're ready, they will push that to Automation Hub as a promotion, and there are additional sanity tests that we apply above and beyond what gets tested on Galaxy into Automation Hub to make sure it passes additional settings. Those tests, in addition, will also continually improve as we introduce new tools into the tool chain and increase the quality level required for what's defined as best practice in how you write modules, roles, plugins, etc. So that's really what it's determined by, when the provider of the collection is ready to upload that collection to Automation Hub, as to when it goes through. And there's a background relationship between a partner engineering team that sits at Red Hat that works with all the certified partners to advise and guide them on what they're doing with their collections to make sure that they're of the right quality when they get pushed through.
The next one is, what is required of the partner certification to push to Hub, if there is any?
What's required of the partner certification?
We do have a certified partner program. I don't know that Rich or I have too much information on it, but it is an entire program that's very similar to our partner program to be a general Red Hat partner and a reseller for specific solutions, right? And we can go into further detail on that.
Well, yeah, I was going to think if it was technical or whether it was a technical requirement, which I mean, there's all sorts of sanity tests that the engineering teams have devised for how things work. But from a business customer perspective, it's the commitment to jointly support and to provide joint support for those items that are in the collection. And in addition, that we do some integration work in the background about how our support systems work, so that when when you phone Red Hat and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this piece of content, we'll do some validation, triage testing first to make sure that it's not an Ansible issue or an Ansible Tower issue in the Ansible Engine or Ansible Tower in what you're having problems with. And then if we identify that it's actually due to the content, then we have a mechanism to pass that ticket over to the partner so they can pick up with you and then triage the specifics of what's going on inside the content. So that's the business customer level requirement for content to be considered certified.
There was a comment about internal collections when showing Hub. What was meant by that?
So if you think about Galaxy as a service, some customers are able to upload their own personal content to Galaxy. An awful lot of customers turn around and say to us, hey, I'd love to have my own version of Galaxy. Now, Galaxy was specifically limited to roles at one point. We introduced collections, and for a number of reasons, we created the Hub code base. You can consider Hub to be the next version of the Galaxy code base. And so what we're trying to build is a version of Hub that customers can take and have their own private boundaries. So as an individual organization, you would have your version of Automation Hub, which you could sync content from the cloud at redhat.com hosted Automation Hub into, and also sync content that you've selected to put through a testing process yourselves for for whatever you want to test, whether it's a black duck SonarQube style test, whether you want to run it through a CI process. That's up to you as the customer. And then have this instance of Automation Hub that only has the content that you have approved for use inside your organization's private boundary. So basically that's on-prem, in the cloud, whatever. But when your teams come and try and find content, they only find the content that you want to show them, not all that's approved for use, not all the possible content in the world. Because as we said earlier, if you go to Ansible.galaxy.com, 22,000 roles exist in that situation. What's a good role? What's the right role to get, which is the right supported role, etc., etc. So trying to give you that experience so that when you're trying to build an automation community inside your organization, build an automation practice, you have a go-to place for content that's provided.
I think this question is a follow-up to the partner one, and it asks, what sort of tests are required? Do they go beyond unit testing, i.e. functional testing? Currently, we do include unit testing today, but functional would be tough to run outside our pipeline.
Yeah, so in that situation, really it's down to the partner. So functional testing, that we don't have the infrastructure available to us for every partner, for every possible version of a partner's platform or technology that they run with. So all that testing that has to be done is that functional testing by the partner. Now, what we're interested in doing is being able to show evidence of that functional testing in the future, but that's something we're talking to the partners about, to sit there and say, hey, what can we share? What can we show the customer, the user, that shows them how the validation steps that have been taken and which versions of platforms it's been proven and tested against. But obviously that's a ongoing conversation with partners about how we might show that, how we might share that information with them, and what's relevant to show to customers based on a whole plethora of different considerations.
For those of us using Tower and GitHub for our internal roles, how will we be able to use collections? It seems like this is a simplified competitor to GitHub that we can't yet run internally.
What you would do today with collections doesn't, for any collections used internally, doesn't change. Hub is purely there at the moment to say, here is the content that you get as part of your subscription that you pay to Red Hat for Ansible. Right? So there's no, at the moment, to work that out, you have to go and find a knowledge article on access.redhat.com and physically look through the list of which modules are supported. As a first step, we're trying to make that much easier for you to know that if you download and use this collection, it is supported content. All right, but you can still use those collections. You can still take them down and stick them in GitHub. You can still put them in any sort of on-premise content repository, file system, stick them in a bucket. Doesn't really make much difference to us. It's how you choose to work, how you choose to use stuff, but we're giving you that central access place for it. And then you bring it down and use it in the same way you would do a role today.
The next one is, from what I've seen, most of the doc comes from the galaxy.yaml, readme.md, and in-source. Does this documentation ever get included into the Ansible overall documentation, or do you expect if customers want some collection, they will come to hub/galaxy and those docs are contained within galaxy/hub only?
So two parts to that. So the team that manage docs.ansible.com are working on a process to cut a version of docs.ansible.com periodically, which they will take the content from galaxy.com or from the same content that would be in Automation Hub. So there's two journeys here. So one, there's the user that likes to go to docs.ansible.com, either searches through Google, goes to docs and goes to the list and is looking for something very specific. The other user persona is the customer that wants to discover what content is available and is browsing, is actually looking for content itself, not looking for the docs. But when you find that content, we didn't want to have customers and users have to then branch off and go and correspondingly go and hunt through docs.ansible.com to try and find where that module content was, or that plugin or role content was, to discover what was meant to be there. It should be there available to you in the same place. Because especially when we get to that private story that I just talked about, when the customer is then using private content they've written themselves, they won't have that content on docs.ansible.com. So it's about giving a focused experience for discovering what content is, but we'll also make sure that the docs.ansible.com is a very important resource for an awful lot of users. And once stuff is in collections and runs at a different pace to the main Ansible branch, we'll also make sure that we can load those in on a regular cadence so that the content is the same in both places. So what will happen is docs.ansible.com will start to source its docs content from the collections in Galaxy.
I don't see any more questions. So to go ahead and wrap it up, Colin, do you have anything else that you want to add in before we wrap it up?
No, I think we're all set. Thank you very much for joining us today.